Hello, guys. We are here for House of the Dragon, Episode 2 preview and Q&A. I was going to save this for tomorrow. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this today or tomorrow, and I was like, we'll just do the casual Friday stream as usual. And, also, you know what I find interesting, guys? So, every stream that I've done with Game of Thrones music, every single one that I've done, whether it be the main theme, Cersei's blowing up the Sept theme, one of the other themes I did, all got copyrighted. You wanna know what's crazy though? Last stream, I did Robb Stark's King of the North theme. Didn't get copyrighted. Maybe that's because it's only like a minute. I only played like a minute of it. I don't know. But, hi guys, how are you? Hi Larissa, hi Zeno, hi Casper, hi Matthew, hi Ghost, hi Dakota, hi Kaiwan. You're gonna have to tell me how to pronounce that one. But yeah, we need the fighter tier list stream. It's coming. Okay, because no one cares about Robb. Oh boy, I'm feeling episode 2 is Aegon's big one. Yeah, I kind of styled this theme over the green camp because it's going to be a big one for the Greens. I feel like episode 1 was a strong black episode in terms of, seeing Rhaenyra's after effects to losing Luke and, just a lot of stuff going on with Team Black. But next episode's definitely going to be Team Green episode. That's not to say there's not going to be some Team Black stuff as well. But I do think, there's going to be more of a Team Green stuff going on. I did. It's more like a neon green. But yeah. I also played Allison's green dress music because it's probably my favorite soundtrack of the first season. I don't know. Rhaenyra's is pretty good as well, I guess. I mean, Aegon II carried episode 1 for the Greens. True. We need the Song of Ice and Fire food description tier list. Maybe. Lament is my favorite track from the first season. Fair enough. Your music isn't playing for... Oh, was it not playing for the intro screen? I don't know why it wouldn't be, but... let me know. It's not playing now, but it should have been playing on the intro. At least it showed it was for me, but maybe it wasn't. YouTube didn't send my Allison joke. Oh, boy. I heard no music. Oh, that's not good. I wonder why that is. Maybe I gotta put it in as a source. I don't know. Whatever. It's not that important. But we are here doing our Q&A for episode 2. Oh, maybe it didn't play. Okay, that's why I didn't get copyrighted. Okay. I get you guys. All right. Well, I'll have to look into that for future streams. I don't know why it isn't, because it does say that it's showing on Streamlabs, but maybe it's just not doing it. We flying the Black Dragon for the next war series on the channel? It will be, it looks like the first Blackfire Rebellion. Not really digging Jace's new haircut. I mean, it's been a while. Would it really take such a long time for the news of Luke to travel to the wall that his hair got that long? Rhaegon Stark, absolutely bad. Honestly, Casper, I don't really care about the haircuts in terms of, the world. I just don't really care. It's just natural that actors are gonna have different haircuts and stuff. And I personally think Jace's new haircut looks so much better than before. So personally, I don't really care about it, Jace looks exactly like I thought John looks. Interesting and very interesting. All right, so let's get into some questions, and we're going to talk about some couple stuff from episode 2. I don't think this stream's going to be too long because this stream was earlier than I wanted to do it, but I have some stuff I want to do later, so I just moved the stream up an hour or whatnot. But let's kind of hit a couple questions. It is kind of hard to ask questions given we don't know what's going to happen in episode 2, but, I mean, it's going to be a reactionary episode. That's the way I would look at it, right? Every time there's a big moment, the next episode's always kind of a reaction. So episode 1 is kind of that weird example because it's a reactionary episode to the finale of season 1. but it's also moves the plot forward. So you're going to see a little bit of that, I think, in episode 2 as well. Matthew Stewart asks, what do you expect from Team Black this coming episode? Surely tempers will be high after the murder of Prince Jaehaerys. Yeah, I think what we're going to see is a split in the camp. I think Rhaenyra is going to be quite pissed off, is probably what I would see from the character, given the fact that Daemon has killed or ordered the killing of an innocent, child. Even though he was meant to get Aemond, still, you killed an innocent child. Like, that's not going to fly well with Rhaenyra, especially show Rhaenyra. Show Rhaenyra has much more of a moral compass than book Rhaenyra does. So in the show, I expect, whereas the first episode was Rhaenyra, where she was more passive, only had one line of dialogue, I expect actually in the next episode to almost be a complete flip, where she's lashing out on people. When she's pissed off, she's gonna tell it to you. So I expect Daemon and Rhaenyra to have quite a split in the episode. Would be kind of where I would look at it. I think this is where maybe our Harrenhal arc may start for Daemon. Not sure on that. I'm not sure if they're going to save it for episode 3, 4 going forward, or they're going to, start that arc here. But either way, I expect there to be a lot of tension in the air at Dragonstone because of what just happened. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, okay, how does Jace now react to the situation that's going on, right? I've talked about this season is going to be a season where Jace is going to have to take on a lot of leadership, very similar to like a Robb-esque character, where in Game of Thrones, Robb had to step up, right? He had to be the leader of the North. That's kind of where I expect Jace's arc to go in this season. So I think it's going to be, he's going to be dealing with the loss still of Luke, but also having to overcome those feelings. You're in the middle of a war. Tensions are growing high. Both sides have now killed an innocent, right? Luke was a messenger, an envoy, and, Jaehaerys, of course, was a kid. So you're going to have that. It's going to be this time of trying to have peace is over, right? Because now, even on the green side, there's no chance of peace now, because Aegon's not going to allow it. We talked about, or we saw, I guess, in the first episode, Aegon was already bored with things like, trying to make a peace and not, lashing out with the dragons and all that stuff. Well, now, what is gonna keep Aegon back? He now has watched his son, someone he has shown to care about, die in a pretty brutal fashion. So it's gonna be really the starting of that war, where both sides are now fully committed to that war. There is no peace anymore. There's no talking. There's no patience. Is gonna be running very thin for both sides. Rishi, check out the memes I sent on Discord. I laughed so at the Aemond one. I remember like seeing them, but I don't remember what they had in them. Are they in the meme section? That's a good meme. That's a good meme about Aemond. And I did see the Master of Tongues by Kristen Cole. I remember that one. I also saw the Kick the Puppy ones. Very good memes. Very good memes. Very good memes, Dakota. Very good memes. Yes to the new longer hair. I agree. I agree. Hi, Maz. How are you? Aegon is going to carry this season, I bet. I mean, what we've heard from people that have watched the episodes have been Aegon and Rhaenyra are fantastic in this episode. Or not in this episode, but this season. But I guess this episode as well. So, I think that's a fair opinion. I think there will be a good spread between him and Rhaenyra. I like that. We hated Joffrey, but he was so damn entertaining. See, this is the thing, right? Joffrey is one of the greatest villains because he actually makes you hate him, right? Every time he's on screen, your blood is like boiling because of how awful he treats Sansa or he treats whoever. Aegon is a different take on that, right? Aegon isn't like necessarily the most hateable person in the world. He has bad traits, but he also has good traits. And I think that's a better way of going about the character of Aegon. Aegon could never be what Joffrey was. You're never going to top that. Episode 2 previews have revealed more Hugh and the introduction of Adam. Yeah, I did see that there was some teaser photos for Adam and Alan. So, yeah, that should be great. It foreshadowed in episode 1. Be awesome to see more of them. Grease, someone said Damon is too whitewashed. Honest, I don't see it because I felt Damon at time is more ruthless and untamable in the show. I mean, Zeno, the way I look at it is I don't like Damon in the show very much at all. There's not a lot of nuance with the character of Damon outside of like his relationship with his brother. That's it. Like outside of that, he is a villain, right? He is not somebody that is very likable in terms of good qualities. He's not the best father. So I don't know. And you know, episode 1 didn't necessarily change my opinion of that. You know, he still was kind of this villainous character. And, you know, I think it's fine that he was involved in Blood and Cheese. He should be, because that's just the way it was in Fire and Blood as well. But season 1 has just left a really dark version of this Damon character where I never viewed Damon like that in Fire and Blood. I know probably other people maybe differ from me, but I always viewed him as a character that was not just like an evil guy that was always doing the bad action, and that's the way they made him in the show. So I think that's my problems with Damon in the show. I think Damon hinted at the fact that Blood and Cheese should get Aegon's sons if they didn't find Aemond. I think Damon will still be fine with his death because of his character. Yeah, in the show, Damon's going to be okay. That Damon ordered a son for a son. That was basically said in the episode, right? By Blood and Cheese. They discussed literally that point, and that they said, yeah, that's what Damon wanted. So, you know. Did you watch the episode 2 trailer? I did not, Ari. I did not. I hope we get awesome lines of dialogue from the book in episode 2. Hopefully we see Sunfire next episode. Need my golden boy. Yeah, Sunfire is a beautiful dragon. I really hope we get Sunfire. I see some book readers defending Alicent sleeping with Kristen during Blood and Cheese. I mean, again, I understand why that Alicent and Kristen Cole are together, and I understand why Ryan Condal and the team wanted to do it. I just didn't really think that it made sense to do it in the way they did it. Right? Because it just, you take away any type of emotional reaction by any character in the room by having Alicent not present there. You can have Alicent and Kristen Cole having a relationship. They like that in the beginning, that makes sense. I wish it was built up to more, but having them together during Blood and Cheese just didn't make any sense to me in terms of you take away your reaction to Blood and Cheese, taking away from that moment, it takes a lot of the weight out of it. It makes it very cartoonish when you have Helena just walk in and Alicent and, you know, Kristen Cole are having sex. It's a weird like route. And not to say that it's bad, because it still works in the show. It's not like a season 8 like scene where it just doesn't function. But it could have been so much better, and just I find it very weird to take something in Fire and Blood that's so well documented. It's probably one of the most well documented parts in events in the entire dance, and then change it. I just found that very weird. I don't know. Hi, Advocate. Have you seen all the rumors surrounding Wynn's so I saw the post he put out, and I know a lot of people like were getting hyped about that, which didn't really understand. All he was basically alluding to was that, you know, hard work is always a good thing or whatever. That's it. And then also that he hasn't announced any publication or whatever, when usually he would by this time if that was the case. And that maybe he's saving it to release it later. Again, unless there's more than that, the Advocate, tell me if there is. From what all I've seen, this is the same stuff that's been going on for years now. Nothing changed, right? Like, if George came out and said, oh, I finished this plot line, or I got some work done on Wins and I feel like, you know, I'm in a good spot now, I will be having a completely different reaction. But him just doing a very cryptic, like, quote, and then not saying anything about it, I've been in the community too long to feel any type of, oh, it's coming out type of thing. I don't know. I think Rhaenyra will banish Daemon from Dragonstone and he'll go and take Harrenhal. I don't know if she'll banish him, Arya, because the problem with that is going to be if, you know, Rhaenyra and Daemon have this big fallout to where they're not even on speaking terms. He's banished. Well, you're kind of giving your best general, your best way of winning the war, basically out of your control. That's not a good thing either. I think Rhaenyra is going to send Daemon to take Harrenhal, just so they're separate. But I don't think she's going to do kind of like that type of thing. Would you say Joffrey is the greatest villain in TV? Because you're right, I've never hated. I think so. He's the best villain I've ever watched in terms of a hateable villain. Like, in my opinion, the two best villains for me are Tywin and Joffrey. Like, in terms of if you want a villain that's understandable, you understand why they do the things they do, they're a huge presence on screen, Tywin. But Joffrey is just the most hateable villain of all time. You like to change that Hugh is at King's Landing the show instead of on Dragonstone? I don't think it matters personally. I mean, like, Hugh was never a well-developed character in the book. So the more that we can see of him because he's at maybe Dragons or he's at King's Landing instead, I'm all for it if we get more of, like, the character, of his motivations and who he's, you know, about and stuff like that. Or what he's about. Daemon is such a bad father that I often forget that he has kids. Yeah, he has a number of kids at this point, right? He has actually a lot of kids at this point, and he just, he's not really that great of a father. Agreed. I think that's the one problem about, like, Aemond, like, that being the assassination for Aemond or Aegon, is that Daemon is always somebody that doesn't really seem to be, like, I kind of agree with your sentiment, Larissa. I think it's crazy, though. Like, that people didn't, like, of course they didn't harm the dog. Like, of course. Like, I don't, it's that same idea where, like, actors are always, like, given hate because people can't distinguish actors from, like, the actual character they're playing. Always found that really weird to me, but I mean, Daemon seemed to care about Luke since he was blaming everyone, so he felt the loss when Luke died. See, I didn't take it that way, Zeno. I took it as, again, you got to remember, this is only like a couple days after Viserys' death. I think it's Viserys' death, but also then the Tywin reaction to Tyrion getting, like, caught more or less by Catelyn. That the Greens could attack one of their family and have no repercussions. But also Rhaenyra not being there to where they could start enacting the war and start taking over and start doing all these things. I never viewed it, so it's how you view Daemon. I didn't view him as actually caring about that part of it. Daemon's best scene in the show to date is a scene with Viserys and Rhaenyra where he's reluctant to show his ailing, where he's reluctant to face his ailing brother. Shows the chips in his strong armor. He can't face that type of pain. I've always said it's that's a good one, but I'd always say it's the one where he helps the crown be put back on his brother's head. Yeah, see, like, I don't mind Alicent sleeping with Cole, right? It's just during the middle of Blood and Cheese, that's where I draw the line. Because then it's like, okay, you're doing that so the characters of Alicent and Kristen Cole feel guilt, right? For what happens at Blood and Cheese. So it's to build their characters. But, I get why they did it, but it takes away from the Blood and Cheese moment. It doesn't have that reaction that it should have. Think about a lot of the big moments of, like, Game of Thrones, for instance. So the Red Wedding, during that event, which is a horrible event, you have Catelyn. She's our emotional figure into it, right? She's helpless to do anything. She's us, the audience. It's Catelyn. Ned's death. We have Arya. We are Arya. We can't do anything. All we can do is view this event, this horrible tragedy, through her eyes. Okay? For, like, the Battle of the Blackwater, for instance. We're kind of like Sansa. We're just sitting here waiting to see which side's going to win. You have that reaction, or Cersei, or kind of those reactionary, even Tyrion to an extent, or Davos. They're not great fighters. They're more, they're putting in these plans of action. They're emotional ways that they're showing us the reaction to all these events. If you don't have characters in a room where there's an emotional reaction, it falls a little bit flat. Not to say that the moment didn't work in the show, because it did. It still is going to have that audience reaction from a casual viewing point. But in terms of a book reader who knows what the event is and actually viewing it from that experience, you sit here and it's like, you know, you have Helena, but she's not the character from the book, so she is not having, like, that reaction that is going to make you take that scene to the next level. You need a reaction to it. Even if you want to go further. Shireen's burning in season 5, right? Regardless of what you think about it, it hits harder because you have, you know, Selyse trying to get to Shireen at the last second and she's unable to get there. Stannis just sitting there, looking, like, visually upset. Like, it's that stuff that drives emotional scenes, and when you take that away from it, it just doesn't work as well. Fair enough, Arya. I think the Allison Kristen hookup is dumb, but it's the producer's way of making both characters disgusting hypocrites. Agreed. I mean, but this is the thing, right? The Advocate, this is the thing. You already established that. You didn't need the Allison Kristen hookup at the end of the episode. You already established it earlier on in the episode. So you didn't need to show it to us a second time. We already know they're hypocrites based upon the scene before the small council scene. So it doesn't really make sense to place it there for just that part of it. I think the reaction to Blood and Cheese will be all of episode 2. Agreed. But that doesn't change the fact that the Blood and Cheese event as a whole doesn't have an emotional reaction to it in the actual episode. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I think episode 2 will be good since there's more room for interpretation from what we know about the books. Agreed. And again, it should be a good episode in terms of you have all these people reacting to the events of episode 1. And regardless of what Blood and Cheese is, regardless of how good we think it is, it's going to get the reaction from all these other people that is going to make the episode. How do they then go about doing the war and those things? So again, episode 2 should be set up to be a very good episode. Agreed, Ari. I did want that line as well. There's not more than that. People are just hopped up on copium. Unless George specifically announces that Wins is done, I'm withholding any excitement. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at, right? It's just like we got such little things, and people are saying, oh, Winds of Winter is coming. It's like, and I don't know. And I don't blame, especially like YouTubers and stuff, because it's clicks. People are going to, click on, I want Winds of Winter stuff and all that stuff. But I just don't. I'll believe it when I get a somewhat of a more of a firm suggestion that we're gonna get. Joffrey is worse than Ramsay in terms of being a sadistic side. I agree. I've been hearing people say that Dan and Dave would have done Blood and Cheese justice and that they should have had them come back. Yeah, Ghost, I disagree, right? Dan and Dave would not have done the scene better at their current state. If we want to talk about Dan and Dave in their prime, when they were trying to make a name for themselves, when they were actually working really hard to adapt source material, if we're talking like season 1 to season 4, Dan and Dave, I'd even maybe say I would go as far as saying season 1, season 5, but parts of season 5. Season 5 is a very mixed bag, where certain plot lines they do really well, certain plot lines do really bad. But if you're talking about that Dan and Dave, if we went back in time and we gave them this at that time period, then yeah, I think they actually would do it better. This is the way I'm going to put it. For right now, what we've gotten from the Ryan Condal team, Dan and Dave have reached a higher peak in terms of adapting material than Ryan and his team have. Now we can debate, is that because of the source material? Is that because of, whatever you want to talk about? Is it easier to adapt A Song of Ice and Fire than it is Fire and Blood? I mean, maybe. Given that Fire and Blood is a history and A Song of Ice and Fire is a story, you have POVs, you can see what these characters are thinking. I don't know. How would you react if Aegon went to Dragonstone next episode just so we could have a scene with Rhaenyra finally? I would hate that. I would not like that. Because if Aegon went to Dragonstone, I would be sitting here going, okay, why doesn't Rhaenys, Daemon, Jace, why don't all these people with dragons kill Aegon and end the war? So, I don't know. Best Rhaenyra scene yet? I would still say my favorite Rhaenyra scene is her with her father when she's pleading for help. I think that's my favorite scene of Rhaenyra. Fun fact: the actress for Allison talked about how a sex scene she wanted was cut out of the director said it didn't add anything. It's funny to me that she wanted a certain scene. Yeah, very, very interesting. I wonder why they cut. I'm interested if there's another one. That's kind of interesting to me. Allison sleeping with Cole during Blood and Cheese is basically just to get Cole away so he won't be on guard in the room. He was talking with Aemon an hour ago before Blood and Cheese arrived. Yeah, but there's so many other things you can do. Like, there's so many other things you can do. You can say Kristen Cole went out to a brothel. He was scouting the defenses of the city, or you can say he was at a bar. There's so many other things you can say that he was doing that other than just sleeping with Allison. Like, that's I don't know. Do you think Helena will die by season 3 or 4? I think she has to die at some point, but it just depends on how much Ryan wants to save them for, the later seasons or whatnot. Now that I set on my 8.5 rating to episode 1 for 5 days, it's down to a 7.5. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Arya. Even, like, I've pretty much stuck with what I originally gave it. That's Dakota. That's basically what I said, more or less. It's more or less what I said. I saw that HBO originally wanted Dana and Dave for House of the Dragons, but that might be false info. Say what you want and will about Dana and Dave, but they have more book lines that are awesome. Again, I just think it's one of those things where Dan and Dave, it's time to move off them, right? They got lazy at the end of Game of Thrones, and so they ruined it. I don't know. There's no point in bringing them back. We could make the argument that someday, or that A Song of Ice and Fire will someday be history. Therefore, all of history will be stories as well that just have not been told yet. Fair. My only problem with Condon and his team is they seem to openly trash fans of Daemon, a character Beto that is one of George's favorites. Yeah, and the problem that I think they don't understand is it's their interpretation of Fire and Blood, right? So their interpretation of Daemon is that he is a character that is a villain that does everything wrong. And so obviously book fans that don't have that interpretation, which I think is most of A Song of Ice and Fire fans, they never viewed Daemon as just the villain of the story, are going to have a differing take, so... Yeah, Ghost, we will not see a scene between them until a lot further from here. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Could House of the Dragon have more awesome lines of dialogue taken directly from Fire and Blood as the series continues? Yeah, of course. Right? Like, there's going to be moments where we're probably going to get those lines from the book. But, yeah, I don't know what else to say on that one. There's obviously going to be more. There's way more to the war that we haven't covered yet. We're still in the early parts. Like, we're not even halfway through probably what we'll get in House of the Dragon for this series alone. Rat warging in the Red Keep. It's definitely possible. It is definitely possible. I won't discount it. There isn't a ton of evidence to go off of in terms of that on the rat warging in the Red Keep. By the way, that was from Jon Snow Rules about the last question. This one's by Mick Basterson. I don't think I said that right. But, yes, it is possible. There's not a lot of evidence to support it right now, but I definitely think it's possible. Daz Reviews asks, do you think that the dance will be shorter in the show? In the book, it was a 2-year war, while in the show, it could only be could it be only 1 year in the timeline? I don't think it particularly matters in terms of the length, because I think they could do either, right? If you want to, you can do a time skip between seasons, and you can convey that at the beginning of the next season, just like how in between season 1 and season 2, there's like a couple-day gap between those. I think you can do either or whatever they want to do. But I will say I do think it'll probably only be a 1-year timeline type situation. It makes it easier for them. They don't have to do like any time skips in between seasons or anything like that. Arya asked, do you think Jaehaera will take Maelor's book story since Rickard Thorne has been cast this season? It's definitely possible. I honestly don't know. That's a great question, Arya. I would say I would lean towards... I'm going to go maybe. I'm maybe leaning to yes. Radical asks, how do you think Aegon will react to Blood and Cheese? Will he have all exits sealed off in King's Landing to stop them from escaping? Also, why didn't Blood kill that serving girl before she ran off to find help? Well, to answer your last one, he actually did. He tried to kill the serving girl. As once he realizes that the serving girl is kind of like, yeah, this guy seems kind of sus, it's too late, right? She already ran away. And in terms of trying to find her, or you're hearing, Cheese, who seems to be talking to somebody, you're going to go towards Cheese. So it's too late by that time. At that point, when Blood is going to kill her, it's too late. And also, again, they seem like very sloppy assassins, right? Like, you get that feeling that these guys don't really know how to pull off an assassination without being found out. Like, if they wanted to not be caught, they also would have killed Helena and her child, her other child anyway. So, yeah, it comes down to kind of that issue. I think Aegon is going to be pissed. In the first episode, we saw an Aegon that was kind of like as Aemon says, a caged animal. Like, he was being caged by, Otto and Alicent, not to be able to do what he wants to do. And so this episode, I think, is going to be the key to unlocking, the Green Camp going forward. Not talking, having no patience. I think Aegon's going to be pissed, and rightfully so. His son was killed in the middle of the night. Where were their guards? Who was supposed to be guarding them? And, part of that might go on Kristen Cole. Part of that might go on other guards. But yeah, I think likely he's going to do exactly what, for instance, Cersei does after, or I guess during Ned Stark's coup, more or less. Not letting anybody out of the city and trying to find people that did this. It shouldn't take very long, given that Blood and Cheese seem kind of like morons. But yeah, so I think you're kind of rolling to the right area there. Let's look at chat. Anything for chat saying before we continue on? They did have a scene that was written on a script. It was young Rhaenyra helping baby Aegon say his name, but they scrapped it. Interesting. That would have been a cool scene to see. There'll never be another story based on Dance of Dragons, so fans like us want it to be perfect, or as close as perfect to as we can get. And yeah, this is the thing I tried to explain to Season 1 to people that didn't like when I criticized Season 1. Because I think there are people in the community that just are like, they are thinking, like, as long as the show is good, like it's a 7, 8 quality, that is good enough. I am not one of those people. I want the show to be as good as possible, right? I want to sit down, watch the show, and think it's Season 1 through Season 4 level of Game of Thrones, where it's so good. All these plot lines are fantastic. The execution of major plot points is fantastic. And it's just, thus far, the show has just been good. It's been like a teetering from episode to episode around a 7, like an 8.5. It's never really reached that 9 to 10 out of 10. Like, it's never reached that great area for me, because every episode seems to have like, a lot of good writing, and then there's just one moment that may like kind of hinder an episode or leave me feeling very questioned about this, why that happened. And this is why I compare Season 5 of Game of Thrones heavily with House of the Dragon, because they're very similar but also very different. Because Season 5 is weird because I've rewatched almost the whole season up to this point now, and you could go from one plot line being really well done, and then the next plot line would be kind of like, don't know why we did that. That's kind of how I feel about House of the Dragon. It's like, we can have a really good episode, and then when it comes to the big moment, the moment you need to do the best, it's the moment that you're leaving on. They don't do that well. It's just consistently shown now through, a season. Now this episode, hopefully it doesn't continue into the rest of the season, but they just really struggle to do the big moments correctly. And that worries me, because like Arya said, we're never going to see this story again on screen. And I've been waiting for some of these moments. Again, the Dance of the Dragons, outside of the main story, is my favorite time period. So when we get to Blood and Cheese, when we get to other things, I want them to do it as best as they can. And when I see, them making a mistake like, oh, why did we do this for Blood and Cheese? It's just very frustrating, because as a book fan, I'm never now going to see what the scene was in the book ever on screen, if that makes sense. Aegon II, I don't want it. Yes. I wish we would have gotten something between Rhaenyra and her younger siblings. Yeah, it would have been cool, but they were trying to do a lot in Season 1, and so, I don't know, you didn't really get to see it much. Casper, Tyrick is warging into a rat instead of a horse. Oh boy. Could Laris be a warg? Definitely, Arya, definitely. Or no, he's skin changing. That could also be possible. I mean, if you think about it, besides Renly and Stannis, none of the 5 kings spoke to each other. That's true. Well, Robb and Joffrey did in the book. Not in the show, but in the book they did. Will Blood and Cheese be executed in the show? Doesn't Cheese evade capture in the book? Yeah, I think we will see them being captured. I think we'll see them being executed. Likely is what I think, Matthew. Blood got tortured, but would he talk? I think he'll talk. And I don't even think it's going to be that hard to figure out who sent them either. Like, I feel like it'll be pretty obvious. You have a gold cloak. You know, Mizari is not in town anymore. I feel like it's pretty easy to figure out who it is, but Otto could be given the boot in the next episode. It's very possible. Maybe episode 3. I don't know. Will Aegon blame himself for getting drunk with his buddies during Blood and Cheese? I think Aegon's going to have a lot of blame going around. I think he'll blame himself, feel a little bit of guilt upon himself. I think he'll blame the guards, the King's Guard, Kristen Cole, especially given he was, you know, having sex with his mother, or with Aegon's mother. Kind of worded that a little bit weird. I think there's going to be plenty of blame to go around. I think that Aemon's going to dish out. I think that's going to kind of play into why he's going to be kind of pissed off. It's like if they made a show about the Blackfire rebellions and botched shit. Agreed. You have no idea how excited I am for Sunday's episode. I am as well, given I'm going to be missing a week, so I won't be back doing a episode for till episode 4. Probably poor planning to think about it. You know, I have like a friends, like we're going out of town thing on over the weekend. Not this weekend, but next weekend. So I am thinking about, I don't know if you guys want this or not because it won't be good quality. But I am thinking about doing like a mobile stream on my phone after the episode. It'll probably be very short if I do one. But I'm thinking about doing it because I do plan on watching the episode on vacation. But for me, the Blackfire rebellions are the best. But even I know that it doesn't have much source material to go off to make a show, so it would be hard to adapt. I actually think not having a lot of source material would actually help the show. Like, because in terms of, you know, plot points. You know what the plot points are. All you've got to do is fill in the gaps, right? So as long as you just hit those plot points, you can develop the characters however you want to, right? Just how's the dragon develop Viserys' character? You can do the same character. You can do the same with like a lot of different characters, right? You can give them more personality than what we know of them. Like Maekar Targaryen, gonna be like your Stannis-esque type of character. You know, I actually think the Blackfire Rebellion's easier to do, but. Unfortunately, Grease, I'm okay with the show just being good. That's all I want personally. How House of Dragon got me to the series. I feel it being good is better than the last season of Game of Thrones. Yeah, I mean, Zeno, I get that, right? I get that. And I do think, like, for me, it's like, you know, I at least want it to be good. But good to me is like, I'd rather be even better, right? You know, like, season 1, I gave kind of a pass because it was the first season. You know, you're trying your best to make it a season where people are going to get back into the world. But now that you have those people back with you, right? And again, I can't speak too much because we're only one episode into episode 2 or season 2. But season 2 was very similar to season 1, and that's not what I was hoping. This is what I was predicting and hoping coming into the season, is that season 2 was going to take that next step. Right? There's no more excuses now. There's no time skips. There's no need for recasting actors. You don't need to try and rush to get to a certain plot point. You now can sit back, look at these events, and develop your character. So, I don't know. Agreed, Arya, but that's the problem. They're doing the small things right, which is the weird part. Is usually, it seems like when you do a show, and usually if it falls flat, it's because of the small moments are not as good. But they do the big moments, but they don't feel earned. So it's weird because House of the Dragon does all the small stuff right. It does all the build up, the character work usually right, and then it kind of falls flat on the big moments. I don't know. That's just how I look at it. I mean, Arya, for me, in terms of big moments, like, this is one of the 3 or 4 biggest moments of the entire show. That's why there's so many people that are... It's why it was so controversial. Let me just go with that. That's why it was so very controversial. If they... Arya, that can't happen off screen. There's no way it's going to happen off screen. Yeah, that's a great point, though, Ghost, right? Like, how is that going to happen? I don't know. Like, there's a lot of interesting things. Maybe it'll be kept under wraps, right? Maybe they lie. Maybe they lie and say they weren't sleeping together, and Helena just doesn't say anything. I don't know. What's to eat for the House of the Dragon watch party? I usually don't actually eat anything because I have like a day where, so Friday is my day where I kind of like have like a cheat day more or less. But I usually don't. I don't like to, because when I eat things, I might get like, especially because I'm reviewing the show, Ryan. I like to be very locked in. Like, my dad was trying to ask me questions during episode 1, and I was trying to be like, Dad, I'll talk to you about this later. I gotta be locked in. I can't be missing things. So I don't know. Hi Tony, how are you? Agreed, Arya. Like, I think Ryan Connell will do a really good job with the Blackfire Rebellions. Agreed, Matthew, on that. Yes, Arya, when I get back, I don't know if my big stream is going to be on Monday because I will be driving 5 hours Monday, but I'll be back around like 3-ish my time, 3 p.m. my time. So I don't know if I'll be able to actually get the stream to you guys Monday or Tuesday, but I will be doing a big stream that week as well. For me, House of the Dragon is not even close to the first 4 to 5 seasons of Game of Thrones. The only thing that is great about House of the Dragon are the many different dragons. It lacks depth. Something's just missing for me. I get that, Larissa. To me, it's around season 5 territory. It's just season 5, even though season 5 I think is of a lower quality in terms of consistency throughout the entire season, it has the benefit of the first 4 seasons of building up the more important characters of that season, that it feels like more impactful and better than House of the Dragon so far. Would be the way I'd look at it. Fair enough, Arya. Yeah, so Zeno, maybe that's the way they go about it, right? Maybe we see, like, you know, Alicent even piggybacking off of Rhaenyra earlier in season 1 even more, where Alicent doesn't say anything about it. She's like, oh, I don't even know what happened. Why wasn't Kristen Cole, you know, maybe he wasn't on guard duty or something like that. Love to see that, Tony. I'm glad you really liked the first episode. For me, 7.5. I think, you know, it's a solid start for the season, but I hope it gets better. You know what's funny, though, Dakota? So my dad's asked me about certain characters, and I've said, well, do you want spoilers? And he goes, yeah, you can just tell me what happens. And all I say is, if you like any character in the show, this story does not have a happy ending. That's all I say. I don't say anything else than that, but yeah, like Ghost, I wouldn't mind that if I wasn't reviewing the episodes. Because that means, like, those people are interested in the show. They actually want to know more about stuff in there. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I can't pause it to then explain it or explain it while the episode's going because I have to go live directly after the episode. So I'm trying to watch the episode as soon as it drops, as fast as possible. Then, especially because I haven't seen the episodes beforehand, I have to then, especially for, like, episode 2, I've got to make a thumbnail within, like, you know, however much time, then go to live to you guys. Boys of Old Town doesn't have that problem because he, you know, knows it's in the episode. He knows what he knows what, like, the thumbnail should be, so he already has a thumbnail made beforehand and stuff. But people miss the dragons in Dunk and Egg. I don't know. I like, you know, the dragons are always awesome, but I don't think the dragons matter in Dunk and Egg. I think Dunk and Egg is just a good story as it is. Yeah, that is one thing that's weird is like House of the Dragon, if you're not like a hardcore fan, it's like it's kind of hard to gauge how far away it is from the main story. Yes, Razor, we're going on a trip to Indiana Dunes, if you've ever heard of that place in America. You think casuals will be confused when they watch Dunk and Egg and there are no dragons? Consider it a spoiler for how House of the Dragon ends. That's actually an interesting, but I think people should kind of realize Game of Thrones, there's no dragons. How do you think that happened? At some point, the dragons weren't there. So how did we get to that? Like, I don't think it matters with Dunk and Egg personally, but Ghost, that is pretty funny. That is really funny, Matthew. I'm glad I'm not reviewing episodes since I pause every time some big. Yeah, see, I don't have that, so that's why sometimes you guys may like see something that I don't, especially on the first stream. Second stream, probably not so much because I'm sitting there. When I do my second watch for the stream, like where I have every scene, I am literally watching a scene, pausing, writing down what happens in the scene, things I maybe like took away from the scene, and then going again. So like, for instance, when I do my actual second viewing of it, it takes me probably twice as long to watch it. Like it'll probably take like 2 hours to watch like 1 hour because I'm playing, pausing, and like, yeah. And like for like the first episode, this is what my night consisted of. I started the episode at what, 8 p.m., got done at 9 p.m., sat in Discord call with Voice of Old Town for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes before we started the stream. Streamed with him for about an hour. So then at that point it was like 10. I then rewatched the episode and took my notes and was so like I was on a House of the Dragon just work schedule for like 5 hours. So, you know. Yeah, Dunk and Egg is gonna be just like Game of Thrones, more or less. It's just gonna be like the Targaryens are still in power, but it's Game of Thrones still. Do you think events from the end of the dance will be directly referenced in Dunk and Egg? Maybe, but okay, Dakota. Okay. If you want to be a smartass, yeah, at the end of the first season of Game of Thrones, there's dragons. In the very last scene. And then forward, there's dragons. Maybe, Arya, maybe. Agree, Dunk and Egg. It will be the most focused of all the shows. I agree. All right, moving on. How do you see episode 2 ending? Okay. I think I don't know how fast I want this to occur though. Like I could very much see the ending of episode 2 being Otto being taken out of being the hand. I think that would be a pretty good spot to leave it, but I'm trying to think of like a good endpoint for episode 2, and I feel like that could be one of them, but I'm not sure. I don't know. That would be my best guess for the end of episode 2. Bill Joe asked, how do you feel about the way they did Blood and Cheese? Bill Joe, I'm kind of surprised you don't know how I already feel about it, but I talked about it a lot in this stream, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I would just say I feel like it's good enough for the show. For me, it was kind of disappointing. Like, it's the reason the episode went from like a 8.5 to a 7.5. Put it that way. Like, I think up until the Blood and Cheese sequence, I was sitting there going, yeah, this is very good. 8.5, 8 out of 10, pretty good starting episode. And then I saw that and I was like, okay, that left kind of a weird taste in my mouth. I don't know. Ghost, you asked, I know it's still too early in the season, but how do you feel about them not showing the Pact of Ice and Fire? Maybe they might reveal it in a flashback or something. Also, if the show is going to be book accurate for Kragan, then we may not see him again until the end, near the end of the show. Yeah, I don't expect to see Kragan for at least this season. I don't expect to see him again. In terms of the Pact of Ice and Fire, I mean, if you haven't read the book, you don't know what this is, but it's more or less that Jaehaerys's like first daughter is going to marry into the Starks. It's something where it's like Okay, like it's a pretty cool thing because it would have united the Targaryens and the Starks, and it's kind of like a prelude to what we see with like Lyanna and Rhaegar with Jon in the show and what people think happens in the books. I personally am not that outraged that it's not in the show. I like it's one of those things where it's like it would have been a cool Easter egg to have and all of that, but I just don't think it was that. It's not that necessary to the show, but I don't know. It would have been cool to see, but I'm not like up in arms that it wasn't in the show, more or less. All right, moving on. I don't know if you guys left anything on Discord. I think Larissa did. Larissa asks, do you think Kristen and Allison's relationship is over now due to what went down? Whistle they were together that night. And do you think due to the breakup, Kristen will go on a major rage trip as usually does when he no longer can be with the woman he wants to be with? Now, that's an interesting question. Ooh. Given where we know Kristen Cole is going to go in the book without spoiling anything, we know the relationship is probably going to be ending soon. So, I would say that it will end, if not in the next episode, within the coming episodes. But I will say I do think, if you're Allison, she's been this character that's really, really conscious of, you know, the guilt she has over people that have died in the past because maybe her actions, her family's actions, whatever. I think that, yeah, that might be that point where Allison's like, yeah, we can't do this anymore. She was already hinting at it in the first episode that, like, yeah, she knows she shouldn't be doing this with Kristen Cole. But now that you have Blood and Cheese, it's like, yeah, we really can't be doing this anymore. So I would say, Larissa, that they're going to break up more or less. And I think Kristen Cole could be kind of pissed off, right? That could be the thing that kind of pushes him into Aemon's plan, right? But yeah. All right. Before I move to Instagram, see if chat's got anything else they want to talk about before we get there. Apparently episode 2 or 3 ends on a mic drop cliffhanger. Okay. I think episode 2 will fire Otto halfway through. Maybe. Also, have a good night, Casper. Being a smartass is better than being a dumbass in my book. That's fair. I can't fight you on that. Not gonna spoil anything, but like in every war, the Riverlands gets fucked up. Of course. It's the Riverlands' favorite pastime. I heard that besides episode 4 and 8, episode 2 left the best impression of people. So, from what I know of Voice of Old Town on this, he said episode 2 was the best of the first 4. So, I'm expecting episode 2 to be very good. And then I think he said episode 4 was the next best episode, and then episode 3 was like, it was good, but it was the third best, which is good for me. That means for my live streams, I get the best 2 episodes. I didn't get the premiere, but I get the finale. So you win some, you lose some. Nah, it's all good. It doesn't even really matter, to be honest. But the 9 Penny Kings would be awesome. I would love to see that as well. Will Cole betray Alicent? If we're talking in terms of like, will Kristen Cole go against her wishes for the war? I definitely think so, right? Because right now, Kristen Cole is being pulled in 2 different directions. Alicent wants this war to, you know, be as peaceful as possible. She doesn't want dragon on dragon violence and, you know, all this carnage. And Aemon wants kind of the opposite. So Kristen Cole's kind of being pulled in 2 different directions. This could be that thing that pulls him to one side. Yes, sir. Aegon the Conqueror. I hope we do get that. I know people aren't that excited for that, but I hope we do get that. Is Daeron Grease's son? Zeno, what do you mean by that? Are you asking me, is Daron the actual son of Aegon? Are you asking me, is Daron the Daring my son? I'm so confused. What does this mean? Out of all the spin-off shows, I'm most worried about Aegon the Conqueror, or Conquest. Why? I actually think Aegon the Conquest is the easiest. Like, it's all kind of spelled out for you. People will love Aegon's Conquest. Not book fans. I don't think book fans will like it as much as the casual fans will like it. But, I don't know. Again, we are the minority in terms of viewership for House of the Dragon or like an Aegon the Conquest show. I think casual people will love Aegon this Conquest show. They cut Daron. I'm mad. I'm just letting you guys know. Daron's not in season 2. Don't get your hopes up. I'm just saying. He's not in season 2. I'm telling you right now, he's not in season 2. He hasn't been cast. There's been nothing about him in the trailers. There's not even a mention or build up to Daron at all. Daron's not in the season. I'm telling you right now, he's not. I'd love him to be. He's my favorite green, but you know. Hello, Muhammad. How are you? How are you? All right, let's hit some questions from Instagram and keep it going. Keep it going. Let me get off YouTube. That would probably help. All right. Questions that we have about House of the Dragon from Instagram. Metal Maz just wants to say, long live the Green Council. And all I got to say about that is, how about no? Did Otto seem like he was drinking more? The first thing he did in his scenes was pour wine. The guy's pretty stressed out. You're in the middle of a war where you have less dragons. You are at a considerable, disadvantage in terms of military strategy. There's a lot of reasons to be pretty stressed out because things didn't go right. Otto had a plan for how he wanted everything to go down after Viserys' death, and Aemond kind of blew that up in his face. So there's a reason. He's probably a bit stressed out. How many times do you think Otto says, I'm getting too old for this shit? Probably like at least 4 times a day. Waterlee asks, where is Daron? Daron's not in the season. He's in Old Town, but he's not in the season, I don't think. Were the babies switched by Sir Larys to Aegon's bastards? The scene was so strange, and this comes from
the Lannisters and their regards.
The Stagonator. Also, thank you for the super chat, Larissa. Thank you for the kind words. Appreciate you as always. I don't think there was any baby swapping going on with, Larys and Aegon's bastards. It wouldn't make any sense for there to be any type of swapping. There was no signs that this was going to be the night that they were going to be killed or something. Don't think so. It's a cool idea, but I don't think so. Daron could get mentioned at least. Hopefully we don't just randomly stumble upon the character in, season 3, but so far he's not in the episode. Maz is a traitor. Why is he the Lord Commander of the Greece's Kingsguard? It's a good question. That's a good question. I predict the season ends with Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne. Maybe. Just you wait. Otto, Aegon, Aemond, and Cole are gonna prove him wrong. Maybe. Yes, Larissa, playing the sound of my happiest moment. You're welcome. By the way, Daron was chilling in Old Town all this time. Yeah, it would feel really weird if we go to season 3 and it's just like, oh yeah, Daron he was at Old Town. But yeah. But that is probably where I'm going to end stream, guys. I do got some things I want to do after stream. And I hope you guys all enjoyed preview stream for episode 2. We got through a lot of material in a very short amount of time. And I will be, very interested to talk with you guys after the episode. It will be on my channel, probably about 10 minutes after the episode, like I've been able to watch it, so probably about 10 minutes after. Be live with Voice of Old Town on my channel as always. You know, you guys got to make sure you call him a filthy green, and all of that.